Today on Canadian Love, we will be interviewing Gordon, a veteran who describes himself as alt-right. Let's go show him some Canadian love. All right, perfect. Gordon, hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for coming in for us today.
You're absolutely welcome.
Yeah, really appreciate you making it out here. So, welcome to Canadian Love. I mean, as the name and maybe the bed sheet suggests, we're pretty casual. We like to have a good time. And really what we're about is the idea that Canadians who disagree should be able to have loving conversations about things that they disagree with. Because otherwise, how can we figure out how to make Canada a better place if we can't talk to people with different opinions without getting angry? So really what this is for is to have anybody who's watching right now just be able to understand who you are, your political views, but also where they come from.
Okay.
That's sort of the idea. So as a very tentative plan, now again, we're not super formal, but as a very tentative plan for the episode, we're going to start by, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about just your political views, try to get a rough status update on where you are in a couple of current hot topics. And then we're going to delve in a little bit into your story and who you are as a human, your lived human experience, however deep or shallow you want to get into that. And then we're going to try to combine the two and figure out where your political views come from so that someone who doesn't necessarily agree with you can understand this is why you feel what you feel about Canadian politics. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, again, thank you very much for joining us. So, Gordon, my first question for you is, how would you describe yourself on the political spectrum of Canada?
Are you referring to left-wing, right-wing BS?
Okay, great opening statement. Yes, left-wing, right-wing BS. Where are you on that scale?
I've had a lot of people call me alt-right, period.
Alt-right. Okay, so Gordon is alt-right. This is exciting. But I do also want to investigate. You said left-right BS. It sounds like you don't really buy into the left-right identity thing?
Well, my understanding on the political scale,
yeah,
on the left side, you have such things as communism, socialism, fascism.
Right.
And then as the slope goes down, because it's a triangle,
okay,
as the slope goes down, somewhere right in the middle is where the United States and Canada is with democracy and republic.
Okay.
And as the slope goes down even further, you get down to where you have absolutely no government, no controls, which is, of course, called anarchy. So the left and right doesn't really exist. It's only a figure of speech that people like to throw around.
Interesting. So to you, the left is extreme government control, such as communism, and the absolute right is no government control, such as anarchy.
Yes. And the phrase for them is no God or man before me.
No God or man before me. So very, very individual.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I've definitely always understood left and right to be financially and socially conservative versus financially and socially liberal.
Yeah, they use that in the parliamentary example.
Okay. So, but you're seeing this as more of an overarching. So would you, on the scale from a lot of government control and communism to no government control, where are you on that scale? Are you an anarchist?
No.
Okay.
I've looked into several philosophies growing up.
Yeah.
I started out with socialism.
Interesting.
The funny part was I was an Army cadet, so it was more of a conformist. Socialism, dabbled with socialism, understood what I wanted from it.
Okay.
But lived experience, go on further in life and realize socialism is not what is going to help anybody. Because, socialism is a step down or two from, let's say, communism. And we've seen what happens to communists. Stalin, Mao,
right.
Lenin. It doesn't work. In my opinion, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And there's actually a lot of people that agree with that. However, there's a lot of people in love with it because of the utopia picture it paints. Everybody's equal. Well, from where I'm sitting, well, if everybody's equal, then where's your freedom? Where's your creativity? Where is your individual thought, your ability to express yourself as yourself? Right?
Okay.
So I went from being an Army cadet, being a total conformist, a loyalist, as it were.
Okay, interesting. Sorry, loyalist as in
to the Queen.
to the Queen. Okay. To so a Canadian, but a loyalist, sorry, to the British.
Grandfather's British, and first grandfather's British. The other grandfather is Scottish.
Okay.
So yeah, Great Britain descendant.
Okay, that's good. I wore a tartan toga, so that's why. Okay, sorry, continue. So you were a loyalist army cadet with an interest in socialism.
Yes, because I believed everything should have been equal.
Yeah.
But I was misled.
Okay. How so?
Well, the utopia. Everybody painted utopia being perfect, everybody being equal, everybody getting their fair share of everything, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a very long time I struggled in life financially.
Okay.
And I had felt for the very longest time that corporations and companies and government as well was stealing from the people.
Okay, so both corporations and the government were stealing from people.
And at that time, I hadn't realized it until much later in life, that at that time the corporations named themselves citizens. So the government was giving them money. And it's like, well, what about us?
And what about actual citizens?
Right.
Yeah.
So changed a few things along the way when, well, actually I got distracted with life. I had 3 kids.
That happened.
Right. So my primary concern was I could put my nose to the grindstone, work my butt off, and make sure they were housed, fed, clothed, the whole bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then not long after, well, after the first one left the home, relationship broke down. Yeah,
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
But left the relationship. I'm not exactly unhappy about it either. We left amicably. What do you call it? I can't pronounce it.
Amicably, yeah. Good.
So we separated like that, and started living on my own for a while, and then 2008 happened.
Okay.
Now, 2008, I happened to be working at a gas station. Not the most glamorous job, but it was the most interesting job for me, because I was able to literally sit back, and the gas station I worked at had a giant window. I called it my fishbowl. Okay. And I was watching people come and go. I was watching interactions. I was watching behaviors. And having very interesting conversations, very deep conversations with a lot of people.
Wow.
And 2008 happened.
Yeah.
And
this was the gas prices.
No, 2008, that was when the Fannie Mae, Bernie Mac banks failed in the United States.
Right, that thing, the recession.
No, not a recession.
No. Okay.
Recession was already there. What happened was toxic loans from these banks failed to the point where every time a loan fails, insurance says has to be paid. Usually paid by another bank. Those two banks in particular had the most payout, so they collapsed.
Yeah.
And because they collapsed, that means all their loans collapsed. So further loans, other banks are going to have to say, oh, crap, we have to pay them. And so on. So the domino effect would have been the entire banking system, the economy of North America, and a good portion of the world would have collapsed.
Wow. Okay.
And that's where the banks turn around and says, we need money from the government.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that was odd. I didn't know much about it.
Okay.
But it turned around, the banks asked for money, and banks got money.
Got money. Yeah.
And then about 2 years later, I was watching a documentary called Inside the Meltdown. That made me think about politics and the politics of banking. And started changing my views on a few things.
So going into that moment, your views were still overall socialist, or where were you at that point?
Yeah, still almost all, pretty much still socialist, but more of, as long as they don't bother me, I don't really care. Right. I was too busy trying to make money to survive.
Yeah.
And then it was at that moment I woke up and realized everybody like me is doing this. They're working to survive. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody's really caring about politics. They're all carrying the same attitude of, as long as it's not bothering me directly, I don't care.
Right.
And I was not very happy when I had realized the banks had basically shafted the government and the people. They'd given away money to these banks so they can survive, so the economy wouldn't collapse. But as everybody knows, because we already had, back in the 1930s where banks collapsed.
Yeah.
Economy collapsed. They survived. They came back. It took a couple of years, like 12, but they came back.
Yeah.
So why didn't we let it collapse? Why didn't Why did we not as citizens let that happen?
Right.
Because everything would have basically what they would call reset. Because people still need furniture, people still need food, people still need cars.
Yeah.
So all these places, yes, they would have collapsed. They would have everybody would have stopped for a while. There would have been some hardships. Granted. But just like the dirty 30s, a lot of people pulled through and made it through.
Yeah.
And the government would have incentivized everything.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we still have our own national bank.
Yeah.
Since the 1800s, I think it was. So our own national bank would give us, would give out loans and get money back from those loans at little to no interest.
So what if we made the banks take the hit, and instead of giving money to the banks to survive, the government instead used all of that money that they gave to the banks to put into...
Well, first off, a lot of that money would have disappeared. You got to remember, a lot of this money is on computers. It's not in gold, not in precious metals or stones. That's the problem.
Okay.
Because we left the gold standard back in 73.
Yeah.
Thanks to Mr. Nixon. We left the gold standard.
Yeah.
So they were allowed to increase the money supply.
Right.
And there's a lot of details to going into that. It's a lot more than I could say intelligently to get it across.
Interesting. Yeah.
But 2008, in my opinion, we should have collapsed, started over. Yes, like I said, a lot of people would have out of work, but guess what? People still need stuff. So a lot of those companies could be on a big, huge slowdown, and people would be able to start getting stuff again. It would be a little bit different until an actual fiat currency was reinstated.
Yeah.
Because the old American dollar, the old Canadian dollar would not be viable anymore because it collapsed.
Right. And when you say money would have disappeared, do you mean like corporations just putting it somewhere? Like, what does that mean?
All that credit that's in the banks, it's in the computer systems,
yeah,
would have just simply flushed right out because everybody would have claimed bankruptcy.
Oh,
So no debts would be there.
The money would actually just
disappear.
be gone.
And the only money and the economy would have to be restarted with the current gold on hand, because that's where you start from actual trade stuff such as gold, precious metals, and stuff that's on hand,
like
not on paper.
Food and furniture.
And people need food and furniture.
Yeah.
So that'll start like
Netflix. People still need Netflix.
Well, back in the 30s, they still had barter and trade.
Yeah.
As well as using semi-precious metals and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And it'll start all over again. All right. So basically, things would. It sounds funny, but things would be a lot cheaper right now.
Yeah.
Like houses would be back to being about $20,000 or $30,000 instead of $300,000. But the jobs would be a lot less as well. Everything will be related.
Sort of reset inflation in a way.
Yes.
Wow.
But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
We bailed them out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everything went up. The prices, everything went up. Properties went up.
Yeah.
And trade started over again, much to the chagrin of a lot of people who suffered through it.
So because we didn't reset, if we had reset, theoretically, based on what you're saying, if we had reset in 2008 and not bailed out the banks, wages would have gone down.
Everything would have been
Everything would have gone, but prices would have also gone down, and we would have sort of be climbing up. And you're saying that instead, wages did go down a bit.
Oh, it would.
But everything went up, like what actually happened, right?
But everything would come back up together.
Yeah.
Right.
But then what actually
happened? Gotta remember, back
that,
then, Cokes was 5 cents. Coke would be 5 cents again.
Right.
It would just be different because your wages wouldn't match what they used to be, and that would take a huge adjustment for a lot of people. That would break a lot of people's souls, because they're not used to they're used to making $15 an hour, and now they're making less than $1 an hour.
Yeah. You're making $1 an hour, and Coke is a penny.
Right. So I mean, it's all related, and that's how economies work, and that's how inflation and everything else works. It's all factored into how the money supply is used.
Okay, so that makes sense. So this is what happened, and then you watched this documentary, and then what happened to your political views?
I started paying more attention to politics. Okay.
Good.
Paying attention to politics only because it really bothered me how they say they're listening to us, and they do stuff.
Yeah.
Like they take stuff away, and then we'll give it back. Did they actually take it away then? No, not really, because they're giving it right back to us.
Stuff is in programs or...
Sorry, there's a quote.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, it's called, "If voting really mattered, they would make it illegal.
Oof. Wow. That's it.
So in my opinion, so yes, and that's why a lot of people throw away their votes. That's why we get less than, what, 30, 40% of the population voting most of the time?
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody's interested in the politics. They don't think it'll change anything. And that's a problem. Right now, the vote doesn't really make that much of a difference. In the last 30 to 40 years of politics, I have realized nothing much has changed.
Mm.
In fact, all the parties that used to be right, such as conservative,
Yeah.
and the liberals were basically centrists.
Yeah.
They were never leftists. Not until Trudeau came out. Trudeau number one.
Right.
Until he came along and he started moving the liberals over to the left.
Yeah.
And the conservatives, because they realized they can benefit by the same kind of shift, also moved over to the left from the right.
Huh.
Which is why they're not considered really right wing anymore.
Interesting.
In the current climate.
I still consider them right wing compared to me, but that's.
But look at all the politics. I mean, look at Harper.
Yeah.
Right? And some of the stuff that he had done, which is very similar to what the liberals had done just before him. That would be Chrétien and Mr. Martin.
Right.
They didn't change anything. It's the same thing. It's still more corporate welfare, corporate bailouts. We're going to try to do this, but it gets voted down or voted out, or people resist.
Mm.
I
mean, I know that Stephen Harper did enact certain things that I'm pretty sure I'm trying to jog my memory. I'm pretty sure had an actual impact. For example, on veterans, like he took away a program from veterans or something.
Yeah, he tried to implement a newer, better program that was supposed to hand out more money.
Right.
But it's like the lottery payout.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
So
it looks like a lot of money.
To one or two people.
Well, no, it looks like a lot of money at the very beginning. But in reality, it's not the same amount of money they would have gotten if they just left it parsed that way as normal.
Yeah.
For example, $1,000
$1,000 a week or something.
Yeah, the cash for life.
Yeah.
Right. Their initial payout, is very small compared to the actual payout if you were to let it be paid $1,000 a week.
Yeah.
But again, you're also talking about there's a third party that takes care of that. It's no longer the government, so you're not exactly guaranteed if that company goes bankrupt, you're going to get all your money.
Oh, okay.
That's why a lot of people take the buyout. But the buyout's also 20% less than the actual total payout.
Yeah.
Or what it should be.
And that's sort of what Stephen Harper did with his veterans.
With the veterans.
I have to say, Gordon, I'm very, very intrigued by this because on the one hand, you're describing yourself, or people are describing you as being alt-right. But on the other hand, your point that corporations and the government are stealing from people, I mean, I want to believe that the government is taking money and then giving back programs, but I also, as someone who's on the left, I also feel that corporations are stealing from people and shouldn't be seen as individuals.
But see, now this is where I begin to diverge.
Okay.
Because listening to certain speakers,
yeah.
I've realized, okay, so we wouldn't be where we are today without the free market. Okay. We wouldn't have the cars we have now. We wouldn't have the technology we have now, or the living conditions we have now.
Interesting.
We have raised ourselves, most of the world, almost all the world, out of poverty. By conditions of poverty that used to be back, let's say 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. People are getting paid a lot more money now. I mean,
relative to things.
Well, put it this way, $15 an hour, a lot better than what it was 10 years ago when it was $10 an hour. Right? So we are getting more money. We are becoming more profitable. People are buying more stuff. But it's a free market. And without the free market, without the creativity of the free market, we wouldn't have what we have now.
Okay, interesting. So the creativity of the free market.
It helps with the new technologies. It brings about new ideas, new things, like 5G is supposed to be coming out, and God.
Sure, yeah. And
all the stories I've heard about 5G. Oh, it's terribly dangerous, but it's more efficient. It's like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But I did find out that 5G is microwave.
It's microwaves.
How do you think the new phones work?
Wow. So it's...
What do you think 4G was all about? 3G. Discussion of 3G. 3G was the beginning of the... I don't know exactly if it was the beginning of the microwaves, but
yeah,
much better phone reception. Digital. Right? Over radio.
Right.
So it's all microwave. And that's why people say, oh, it's going to kill you. It's going to fry your brain and so on and so forth. I don't really know anything about that.
Fair, yeah.
Right now, I'm worried about the current politics and the way things are with society.
Yeah.
Because it bothers me now. And the reason why I call myself right wing
Yeah.
is because I am all for free speech. And with free speech comes the freedom to offend. Also comes with freedom to ignore what I'm saying. You don't have to listen to me, but you have to let me able to say it.
Hmm.
So you understand where I'm coming from and what my thinking is.
Okay.
The current situation now with our government, both federal and provincially, is you can't say anything bad because it's just wrong. It's hate speech. It's like, no, it's difference of opinion. And everybody's entitled to that.
Hmm.
And this whole hate speech and white supremacy on Facebook and all that, it's like, what are you guys talking about? What a lot of people have been saying here
Yeah.
is no different than what some of the old timers do in the coffee shops when they talk politics and views. A lot of it's the same. Hang Trudeau. You think that's original for this year or last year? No. Go back to 1973 when it was the only thing Alberta was saying was hang Trudeau because of what happened back then. So it's not unusual. And yes, it sounds bad. You got to take the good with the bad when it comes to speech. But you also got to know when to say, yeah, I'm going to ignore that because they're not serious. And this whole white supremacy thing, you know, it had almost died. It was almost non-existent.
Yeah.
And then Charlottesville happened.
Okay. I mean, I feel like it was probably ramping up towards Charlottesville.
No,
like
it was
Charlottesville
dying. It was dying. You got to remember, I'm all right.
Okay.
Okay. It was dying. It was non-existent.
And so
everybody was doing what they're supposed to be doing, which was to ignore it. Don't give these guys a platform. Let them do whatever they want, and just, okay, you're an idiot. We're not going to listen to you, because that's what they crave as an audience. They need a following.
Yeah.
Because without that, they have nothing.
Fair, yeah.
Charlottesville, the original guys who applied for the permit to march that day was 7 people. Okay, it was bolstered to 12 because a couple people came out of town. Okay, so there's 12 people getting ready to march.
Yeah.
And who shows up? Antifa. Over 200 of them. Or might have been around 500. Antifa. Anti-fascist.
Okay.
Movement for, I guess, for part of the States. Over 200 or 300 people showed up. And these guys, these dozen guys are going, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to march today. So they left. Now, there was 2 other white supremacist groups that came in, but they also did the same thing. It's like, yeah, crap, we're not going to stay. They left. And then things exploded when some fantastic members of Antifa decided to change the roadblocks.
Change the roadblock?
Yeah. It was all cordoned off.
Yeah.
So they started moving roadblocks. So that one poor fella, and I call him poor fella because he got caught in an impossible situation. And I think what happened was a complete, total accident. Very sad what happened with the one girl that died. But in my feeling, it was a complete, total accident. The guy panicked, hit the gas pedal instead of hit the brake, and hit the girl.
Huh.
Because, I mean, this guy just purchased a relatively new car.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't new, it was used. He just purchased a relatively new car, and people are beating up on it. And it's like, he panicked. Now, there have been claims of saying that some people knew who he was, that he was part of the white supremacist group, and he was.
Okay.
But you know what they charged him with?
What?
They charged him with first-degree murder. Like he planned this.
Okay. Interesting.
So, if it wasn't for Charlottesville, and I'm almost positive, white supremacy thing that's all going on now would be a lot less. Almost non-existent.
Because Charlottesville gave it all this attention and made
Just suddenly it exploded.
Wow.
Right? And if it wasn't for that, again, these really they're all the authentic white supremacists still would not have a platform. They would not be where they are now.
Wow. So by hating them, they were given a platform from that hatred.
And publicizing it.
And
and making them celebrities, whether they realize it or not.
Wow. Wow. I mean, this is very interesting for me. I mean, myself personally, I I am a big belief that when someone says something that seems offensive to other people, it it shows that there is a gap in how people feel about something, and that this is something that should be investigated. I want to bring them on the show and say, why do you feel this way? Let's talk about let's investigate where it comes from, and someone is feeling like they are not being loved or listened to, and that is turning into this vitriol,
Yes.
but that it's coming from, like, the saying, hurt people hurt people. A white supremacist is a white supremacist because somewhere along the line they feel like they are wrong. Nobody thinks that they are the bad guy. But it's so my opinion on this is that when you see something problematic like that, you should call it out. You should say, hey, I noticed that you are propagating hate speech. We should discuss why you think that's something you can do.
Let's be accurate here. There's no such thing as hate speech.
Okay.
I already pointed that out. There's only a difference of opinion. Right?
Okay.
Now, calling for violence is wrong, granted, but I still wouldn't call that hate speech. Calling for violence is just simply wrong.
Okay.
Okay, it's just
No
not
matter who's
something
doing
you
it.
do, no matter who's doing it.
Yeah.
But you got Antifa doing it, and who's putting them down? Who's holding them to account? Nobody. And that's one thing I'm a little bit offended by is the double standard. You can't say to me that I'm espousing hate speech because I don't want illegal immigrants in Canada. It's like, no, that's just my opinion. That's not hate speech. First off, they're illegal immigrants. They did not come here properly. We already have an immigration system in place with checks and balances to make sure these are the people we want in Canada. That they're not criminals, that they're not going to cause trouble for us.
Okay. I mean, so this is a very interesting statement for me, the immigrant thing, and especially like that's a topic that's really in right now.
Oh yeah, it's widely touted as being the problem with us. Okay, one thing I should admit, I'm a yellow vester.
A yellow vester?
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means I wear a yellow vest every Saturday protesting the government.
Huh.
And there are several policies I am totally against. Now, you already know a little bit about the fact I care about free speech.
Sure.
Okay, so Bill C-16, not required, not needed, should be stricken. Same thing with M-103, not required, not needed, should be stricken.
Familiar with C-16? What's just briefly M-103?
M-103 is the one that's nicknamed the Islamophobia law.
Okay, interesting. What is this law?
It just simply says we can't talk negatively about Islam. Effectively, it is a carryover. As one person pointed out, it's basically Sharia law. Because in Sharia law, you are not allowed to talk bad about Muhammad or the religion of Islam.
Okay.
But the reason why I'm saying they're not needed and why they should be stricken is, when did Canada become so indecent? When did all Canadians start being unable to be courteous and polite and treat people with decency? When did that happen? I mean, C-16, the transgender pronoun, you know what? If I don't know you, I'm going to say probably the wrong thing. But once I know you, once you've said this is who I am, this is what I prefer to be called by, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to call you that. Okay, because that's common decency.
Yeah.
So why do we need a law? Why do we need to, under the government gun, be told we have to use their pronoun? We don't need that. In my opinion, we don't need that, and we shouldn't need that. Because if you're raised properly, and I'm using that term loosely, properly, because I've seen some of these kids today, and it's amazing. But if you're raised properly, if you treat people with respect, and not demand respect, because one thing you can't do is demand respect if you're not going to give any respect.
Okay.
All right? You give respect to everyone. And as long as they respect you back, and you continue on that, what would you call it? The public exchange.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
The social construct of being kind to people.
And treating other people with decency.
Yeah.
And same thing with Islamophobia. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. The religion of Islam has got some bad points to it. But it's not here. It's not It's not in Canada yet.
Okay.
If it comes to Canada, then we're going to have conversation about that. But as it states, and the terrible Charter of Rights and Freedoms, because it's limited. Charter of Rights and Freedoms, that's a whole other subject. Currently, we have laws in place under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms,
right,
that people are allowed to practice the religion they want,
mm-hmm.
in the home where they want,
Mm-hmm.
and we are to respect them. That's what it says.
Okay.
Okay. So when did that change into a lot of Canadians not following that? I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a few that are totally against it, and you're going to get that. But the same thing, like with white supremacy, is don't give them a platform. Don't give them a reason to speak. As long as Islam can keep itself civil in Canada, along with the rest of Canadians, everything should be fine. Everything should be copacetic.
Right.
It's not happening, though. Not with the Islam I'm talking about, the Canadians.
Yes. Yeah. Canadians are not being respectful to Islam.
Some of them. A lot of them are. I work for a Muslim.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm all right.
Yeah.
So my sister says, that shouldn't excuse you from being, all right. I said, no, it doesn't excuse me. But I respect the guy. That's why I'm working for him. That's why I'm continuing to work for him. I know about Islam. I know some of the problems with Islam. And he and I have discussed some of those problems. But in reality, it's not here. Okay, we don't have a caliphate in Canada.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical about the Islamic Party of Ontario. Have you seen their platform?
No, I haven't.
Not very impressive. You should.
Didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
It's an official party. They got their party status, and they have everyone in every writing.
Glass, by the way. I'm gonna join in the diet ginger ale. Could you grab me a glass, just quick? Sorry, continue. So yeah, so the Islamic Party of Canada. That's interesting.
Of Ontario.
Of Ontario.
There is a federal party starting that I'm been made aware of, but I don't know where they are on their stats.
Interesting.
Please don't go. No, please don't go away. Because we'll be right back.
Okay, sorry. So say that again, because I thought that was interesting.
Okay, well, a lot of people here are worried about what's happening halfway across the world related to Islam. And those people, rightfully so, are scared of that coming here.
And what is that? Sorry, just
the violence. The Sharia laws, like allowed to beat your wife, stoning of adulterers, mostly the women, not very many of the men, because of the whole women are half that of man when it comes to witness.
Right.
So you need at least 2 women to say something happened compared to 1 man.
Yeah, that is obviously not fair.
No. And of course, there's the killing of gays, the Jews, or at least they're preaching that. I've seen stuff like how some Muslims attacked a church, but we're also talking about radical Muslims, and even radical Muslims being approximately 1.5% of all the Muslims in the world is still over 500 million people.
Interesting.
All right, so that's why you're getting what you're getting and what we're seeing. So some people are paranoid that's going to come here. That's why you have a group like Vegeta.
And what is Vegeta?
Vegeta is a group, I don't know the actual acronym.
Yeah.
But it has to do with people against the Islamification of the West. They are promoting, West is best. Because we are the best society the earth has seen. We've lasted longer than the Romans. Right? But we have social welfare programs. We have schooling free for most people, right up until, of course, the college stuff. But some of those countries like Sweden, or is it Norway, that has free college, free university. So yeah, West is best.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I think the idea of it is funny to me that in a country like Canada with a bit of a cultural melting pot, but such a predominantly white Anglo-Saxon Protestant WASP culture,
happens to do with our origins. I mean, you can't really beat that.
But that is where we're from. But
the majority of Canadians are Western European.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking Greeks, Italians, Spaniards, French, Britons. Right? I mean, you got to remember, the United States was one of the 13 colonies, or however many colonies they took with them. But they're also European, right?
Yeah.
So we are working with the melting pot, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I lost my point. What I was going to say now.
I was just gonna say that it's funny to me to think of, in a country where the culture is the majority of humans are Western European or Eastern European, or just a lot of white people, that they're worried about having the West be Muslimized, having the Islamification of the West. Like,
Have
that
you
would take a lot of
have you
conversions.
looked at Germany and Britain lately?
No.
You've heard of the term ethnocide?
No? Methno what?
Ethnocide.
Ethnocide. Okay. The
No.
death of an ethnicity?
Yes.
Okay.
Germany, Sweden, Norway, France rather, and Britain are experiencing what has been loosely called ethnocide. All right? More than 30% of the population is immigrants. More than 30%. And that's a lot, especially in domestic population.
Fair, but I mean more that if you look at Canada as with settlers coming from Europe, we're probably
Still
more than
Western.
70%.
Still Western Europe.
No, but I mean like
Not from Africa.
but
Or
like
from Middle East. How am I going to put this now?
but I mean to an indigenous person, Canada is well over more than 70% immigrants. Right? Like,
From an indigenous point,
yeah.
you do know that the indigenous are also immigrants too. They're not originally part of North America. Don't forget Pangea.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. They just came over a lot earlier, but in that case, what is an immigrant,
And
The
let's
line-
also remember another thing too. A lot of people think the Indians own the land. They don't own the land. They never owned the land. They used it. They
Okay.
respected the land. They used it. So when we came over, the West being as greedy as we are, because by that time we were far more developed than the Indians as far as thinking with gold, with finances and society.
Mm-hmm.
Much different society than the Indians.
Definitely different.
The Indians
society.
had no concept of ownership. What they knew was in cooperation with the land.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They had their stories, they had their things that they must do, and they were migrant. They never stayed in one location like Western Europeans do.
Right.
So when we came over, when the Europeans came over, they negotiated with the Indians. But the Indians didn't understand what we meant by, we want this land. What do you want for it?
Mm-hmm.
They must have understood what we were saying.
Mm-hmm. There's a different construct of ownership.
Yeah, they never had an idea of ownership, not till much later.
Mm-hmm. Which I mean, my one issue with that is that I think there's a tendency to look at, and I mean this is sort of the West is best thing. I do agree that I like what society has done in terms of technology and in terms of social services, but I think people see the Western settlers to North America as being more advanced. Was it more advanced, or was it just kind of greedy and sad, Here were a bunch of people who were living spiritually connected to a land and enjoying it, and they said, yeah, come over, yeah, you can have some of this, that's cool, come use this. And then these settlers were like, oh, wow, they're letting us in.
It's our land now.
Well, we own this, and here's a blanket, it has smallpox.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I don't agree with the Indian treaties, and they should get back stuff. I don't know if it's land or compensation. I mean, I don't care for all the land acknowledgments. We already know where the land came from, or who it actually belongs to. A lot of it around here locally, anyways.
I mean, yeah.
And it should be settled, and it should be settled fairly. I don't disagree with that.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, so yeah, that's about that for that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that what you're saying so
here's one thing, and this is one thing I laugh at every time someone says, well, you're anti-immigration. It's like, no, I'm anti-illegal migration. You're forgetting the word illegal. Because like I said, we have an immigration policy or procedure in place.
Yeah.
What's wrong with getting them to follow that?
I think
See, right now what we're doing is we're taking these people in, we're putting them on social welfare, we're giving them free Medicare, and a place to stay.
Mm-hmm.
What about our homeless? Our homeless doesn't get any of that.
I mean, they do get welfare.
Homeless, no welfare, no place to stay. These guys are getting everything. Homeless are not. They're not getting health care. They're not getting a place to stay, let alone walk around money.
Mm.
Okay, and for me, because I am a nationalist, I feel our citizens should come first before any illegal. Right? We should take care of our citizens, make sure they're taken care of. Once they're taken care of, then we can start cleaning up the doorstep on the other side where the illegals are coming in and determine if they belong here, if they shouldn't be here, or whatever. But not illegals before our own citizens.
Mm.
Not illegals before our veterans.
Interesting. I and I see that point. I think where I would question that is that there are people who cannot follow the legal process because they're on the run from really bad things.
No, sorry. The illegals that have been coming in predominantly have not been coming in from war-torn countries. We've had a wave of Haitians that came in from a storm 2 years ago. Why aren't they going back? We've got.
I mean, there's probably
I've
not
talked
a
to
lot
one.
to go back to.
I've talked to one immigrant.
Yeah.
She's very upset about her uncles and her uncles' families because they jumped the border. They didn't want to wait the 7 years to get in. They jumped the border and they're now in Canada and they're happy to be here.
Hmm.
And they're now gainfully employed and all that other stuff. That's great, but they jumped the border. They didn't come through here legally.
Hmm.
And her family, as well as herself, had to go through that process to get here legally. And she's very upset that Trudeau government's let them in like that.
Hmm.
This is an immigrant
Yeah.
who's upset with their family for breaking the law.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, when Trudeau had said they haven't done anything wrong. It's like, what are you talking about? They broke the law the moment they crossed the border. Got to remember the third safe country agreement is in place for a reason. One guy argued with me saying, "Oh, all those guys coming up from the States, they're, scared of Trump." I said, "What was Trump doing? Was Trump coming after them with guns?" "Well, no, ICE was going to probably catch them and deport them." And it's like, yeah, as they should. That's their job.
Hmm.
Okay, and they weren't going to be persecuted. They weren't going to be killed, right? They're probably going to end up in a holding cell and then sent back to the country. That's not a reason to jump to Canada for safety.
I mean, well, this is very interesting. I don't necessarily agree with you, but it's very, very interesting.
From a legal standpoint, that's what it is.
From a legal standpoint, that's what it is. But I still feel that.
You do realize in the last 3 years,
Yeah.
we've had almost 450,000 illegal immigrants enter Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The annual cap for the legal ones right now is 250,000, but it was less than that before.
Okay.
So we've got 2 or 3 times the amount of immigrants we have in the country than we should have. Okay, to acclimatize, to get these people, to get in, to mix them up, and then get them working and everything else to make them productive. Right now, most of these guys, they're going to have to sit, literally have to sit on welfare for the next 2 or 3 years to wait for the cases to be heard. And most of these cases, because they have no money, going to require legal aid. And 2 or 3 years of welfare, 2 or 3 years of medical care, 2 or 3 years of housing on our dime. That's an awful lot of money. It would take one of those guys 15 years to start paying back his debt that we incurred from him from being here illegally.
Interesting. I know that when my grandparents came to this country, there were programs like they would basically take immigrants from the war who had escaped the war, who were from prisoner of war camps or whatever, and put them through programs like my grandpa was sent to a mine. He worked at the mine for a couple of years. He had free room and board, but was sort of working for the mine. And then they gave him a package and sent him into society. But instead of sitting around waiting on welfare,
They didn't have welfare back then.
okay, fair enough.
In fact, welfare didn't come in until after the 70s.
Okay.
And EI didn't come in before much longer after. You get those. Your grandfather came here and helped build the country. The country was still being built. In my opinion, it was still being built in the 70s.
I think the country is still being built now, though.
It is.
Yeah.
But we didn't have those social programs.
Right.
Some of the immigrants coming here are coming here deliberately so they can collect. Not because they want to be here, not because they're fleeing terror or war. And
I mean, that's
one of my other
the
opinions
few
too.
bad apples, though. Like
A few.
there are also a few
Probably
Canadians
a lot more than that.
There are a few Canadians who just live on welfare and have no interest.
Yeah, I know. My ex is one of
them. Oh, okay, fair enough.
So yeah, I know.
Yeah, but like that's a few bad apples. That's not. I think the majority of them want
but these
to
guys
build
that are
a life in the country.
These guys that are. It's funny. We brought in all these Syrians.
Okay.
They're fleeing war.
Yeah.
Understandable. A lot of these guys don't want to fight. But you come to Canada, the war is now over. You should be going back, especially if you came here as a refugee. If you want to stay here as a citizen, you still got to qualify through the regular immigration progress. Right? And they shortened the rules. They've changed it so it's much less now. Instead of 5 years, they can be here 3 years. So anybody that's been here for 3 years that are brought in either under the government program or illegally, because they're including them too. Once you've been here for 3 years, citizen.
Okay.
Now with the UN Migration Compact, you've heard about that?
Not a lot.
Okay. The UN Migration Compact will make migration a right rather than a privilege. So our current immigration program would be scrapped. So anybody from anywhere around the world can come to Canada and say, I'm a Canadian, give me my welfare check, give me my passport.
Interesting. So it sounds like that's something that would need to be, if that were to happen.
It's already started.
There'd have to be a shift in welfare law.
It's already started. Immigrants are coming here still by the bucket load, and we have to accept them. Now, we don't have a choice. We can't turn them away anymore.
Okay.
Because we signed the UN Migration Compact. We also signed the U.S. Refugee Compact, too. So, basically, we no longer have borders. We no longer have a country's security. Because we're allowing everybody in.
I mean, I kind of like the idea of allowing everybody in and you know.
You're forgetting about Marcia Shen.
But what?
You're forgetting about Marcia Shen. You're forgetting about the sexual abuse here in Edmonton Mall. You're forgetting about the sexual abuse happening in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. Somebody else down in, I think it might be Newfoundland. There's a problem with bringing in people unvetted, unchecked. I have a problem with that. If we don't know they're a criminal, we don't know if they're a serial rapist, we don't know if they're a serial robber, killer, whatever. We don't know that. That puts a danger on us.
But then they also become part of our laws. Your next door neighbor who was born in
Have
Canada
you
might
seen-
also be
have
a
you
serial
seen
rapist.
some of the punishments they've given these people? The one Somali fella, been in Canada less than 3 years, had a license for a year, less than a year. Started driving for Uber.
Okay.
Got his one of 2 passengers killed.
Through neglect? Through
negligence, yes.
Okay.
Now, guess what they gave him as punishment? $1,000 fine and a year probation. The normal Canadian would be spending time in jail.
I mean, that's a fair point. I think, you know, if you are accepting people into your society, that means they're also subject to the laws.
We can't give them the amount of forgiveness we're giving them. We can't give them we can't make exceptions for them. They want to be Canadians, gotta follow Canadian law. And if you're going to be punished as a Canadian, then you should get the same punishment as a Canadian. There shouldn't be 2 separate systems. It should be the same. All right, now my understanding is some of these refugees, some of these new illegal immigrants would get automatically deported for some of the crimes they commit. So they're reducing the crimes. In fact, they've done that in the criminal code as well. They're reducing crimes, they're reducing everything so that they won't get deported. It's being custom tailored for them. And I find that very unfair, grossly unfair. I mean, they're even reduced the, treason.
I've heard of it.
Okay, treason is a thing, like participating in a terrorist group is treason, or at least it used to be. It no longer is in Canada. If you partook in terrorist activities across the ocean, but not in Canada, you're okay.
I mean,
meanwhile, you got somebody like me who has a criminal past.
Okay.
I'm still restricted. I can't do anything. These guys don't have that restriction, but I do.
I mean,
these guys might have killed people, and all I did was commit robbery.
Okay.
I didn't kill people.
Okay.
So to have them being favored over me is a bit of an issue, considering, in my opinion, their crimes are far more serious.
And I think that's supposed to be a bit of a nod to where they're coming from. You know, if you were from 18th century England and you had issues with your sexuality, that's not because you were personally repressed sexually as a human. That's because in 18th century England you were repressed.
Yeah, that's religion.
Well, yes, but
there were still gay people around. There were
yes,
they were far more accepted than a lot of people would be willing to admit.
I believe that. I believe that.
But it was the religion. It was society at the time. That was the problem. That was the issue.
But that's my point. Is that if you were from 18th century England, sexual repression was where you were and what your experience was. So if you grew up, if you were in Syria during the time of unrest, yeah, there's a huge chance that you would participate in a terrorist group. That's not because you were a bad person. That's because that's what people were doing where you were. So to me, that one is sort of a nod.
That still doesn't trump common law. Still doesn't trump.
I mean,
you're coming to a country.
People.
You're coming to a country where you used to be a terrorist. Terrorism is illegal here. So okay, you've got a bad past, but that doesn't mean we should treat you any better than someone who has already had a bad past here.
So I guess
I want to be treated equally. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it sounds like your feelings about immigration come from a sense of feeling that things are unfair towards people.
Towards natural citizens, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, why is it that I have to prove that I have to empty all my bank accounts, not have a car, not have any kind of fancy technology before I get welfare? They take inventory and stock of everything that I am.
Yeah, to show that you need it.
These guys, they're naturally assume they have nothing. And I don't know if you've seen some of the footage from Roxham Road, but some of these guys are actually not that bad off. Nice shoes, nice suits, brand new iPhones, and they're
on welfare. I mean,
they come here automatically. They're on welfare.
Yeah.
There's no dispute. Because we now have to, they become the ward of the state. Yeah. And we have to watch them.
I mean, that's very interesting to me. I mean, that sounds like the sort of thing where, like with what I think Bill 16 is trying to do.
C16?
C16, yeah. And I agree that if somebody gets your pronoun wrong, the way to do it is not to say, I'm going to sue you now. The way to do it is to say, oh, I'm sorry, did you hear me? I asked you to call me this.
Right.
And if they continue to do it, to say, excuse me, why are you being a dick? I said, just like if someone started calling me asshole and I said, no, my name is Michael, and they called me asshole again, I wouldn't sue them. I would say, why are you doing this? You clearly have a problem. What's your beef? And I think that's I think part of it is that now that pronouns are coming out, there is a fear that the rest of society hasn't caught up to those yet. And I think that fear is being thrown into a bill like C16, where it shouldn't be a bill to punish people for getting it wrong. It should be a public awareness campaign that, hey, these are the pronouns, use them. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And I think that this is sort of it sounds to me like a similar situation where, due to the conflict in Syria, due to, I don't know, Canada realizing that it has wealth and can share a little bit, we have more immigrants.
People that have time,
but we haven't updated
to get a
the
passport
laws.
in their country.
Yeah.
to get a visa for the United States,
Okay.
and then get to the United States, and all of a sudden immediately jump the border into Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they do that?
To, I guess.
To defraud our government.
Okay.
That's
Right.
what they're doing. Because they had the time to get a passport. They had the time to get a visa. Typically a student or a work visa for the United States.
Yeah.
So instead of doing what they claimed they were going to do, they come directly to Canada.
Right. So they were deliberately defrauding the government. Interesting. Because I think...
Because there's even a taxi service dedicated to taking people from that airport in New York to Roxham Road. Dedicated. That's all they do.
Yeah.
Up to 300, 400 people a day.
Yeah.
They're running back and forth, getting people from the airport to Roxham Road.
See, that's so interesting to me, because myself as a liberal bleeding heart, when I hear illegal immigrants, I picture, the people who are trying to escape drug lords and poverty from Latin America, dragging themselves across barbed wire to get into this country. That's how I picture illegal immigrants. The idea of these people, taking the time to get a student visa and then calling a taxi with a nice suit on to get a drive to Roxton Road, that is not at all what I picture as an illegal immigrant.
That's what most of them are.
Yeah.
Between
most
between
of them,
70,
is there a statistic here?
yeah, between 70 and 80% are that, exactly that.
Really? Okay. Because I would...
You should see some of the litter along Roxham Road.
Really?
Yeah. They've left behind brand new suitcases because they switched to duffel bags, or brand new shoes because they switched to runners.
Wow.
This is on film. Faith Goldie has a small section of it. They're showing smashed
Faith
phones.
Goldie.
Yes.
Okay.
They're showing smashed phones, receipts for the airport, for the food on the airplane or whatever, and other stuff.
Yeah.
These people paid to get to Roxham Road.
Interesting.
And now they're claiming asylum. They're claiming they're fleeing terror and whatever else. And it doesn't really look like it because they have the time to do all that. It tells me they it's not as bad as they like to make it out to be.
Right.
To the point where some people would say they're just outright lying. They're being disingenuous.
Yeah. And that's interesting to me because I the 20 to 30% that are actually escaping hard circumstances, I want them to come to this country and be welcomed and have asylum. But this apparent 70 to 80% who are
not here
getting
for
their
legitimate
lawyers
reason.
paying their corporate lawyer to get them a visa to go to the States on a student visa and then
hopping in
the cab. I do feel like they are stealing from the immigrants who actually are trying to escape from
That's
things.
exactly what they're doing.
So, Canadians aside, they are stealing from the immigrants who actually need that program.
Yeah, and that's where you get a lot of hate from. That's where you get a lot of people saying, no, we need to close the border now.
Right.
And I'm not
And it's not that we need
too opposed against that myself, to be honest.
Yeah, but it's not that
we can do what the other countries have done and create a tent city and process these people properly. But instead, we're just pulling them in. We've got 13 hotels in Toronto holding refugees at the average bill, I think it's $1 million a month. 13 hotels in Toronto.
Meanwhile, if we were integrating them into the working world, giving
it would be different.
English lessons on the side,
it would be very different.
Easier.
It would be a lot easier, but it wouldn't fix the immense cost that we're spending on bringing them in. Which is why a lot of people say stop. Just stop it.
Yeah.
The Nationalist Party of Canada, they want to reduce immigration by 40%. All over the place. Just not stop it. Don't bring people in, but reduce it to the point where we can sort who we have now. And, good ones, bad ones, that kind of thing. Get them properly vetted. And the worst part is a lot of these refugees, where they come from, there is no internet, let alone files on these people. So we can't even guarantee they're actually safe. Like I said, we got Marsha Shen out in BC that got killed by a Syrian refugee that Trudeau brought in. And we got that guy in Toronto who raped a 10-year-old boy because he had a sexual emergency.
I mean, to me,
so yeah, there's a huge culture class. But not an unusual practice with Muslims is using boys as sexual toys during a war. Not unusual.
So that should maybe be part of the entrance package, is a little briefing that, hey, here in
We
Canada,
already have that. We already
don't.
have that. The problem is they're not listening because they're not going to want to listen to our laws. They're going to want to listen to their Sharia law that they've known, grown up with, and practiced all their lives.
which makes sense. If I went to,
But Sharia law is not compatible with common law. It's like that one meme on Facebook. We want Sharia law. Great. Go back to where you came from. You'll have it again. We don't have Sharia law here, and it shouldn't be allowed here.
right,
It's ultra violent. It's contrary to what we believe as a civil society.
right. Like, I do want to be accepting of other people's cultures, but I also don't want young boys being raped. That sounds terrible.
Or wives being beaten,
Yeah.
or girls being forced to wear a hijab. I have no clue why people are trying to promote the hijab when it is, well, it's an object of oppression. That's what it's meant for. That's what it's designed to do.
It is interesting that liberals in Muslim countries are getting in trouble for saying we no longer want to wear hijabs, and liberals in our country are saying they should be allowed to wear hijabs. I mean, they should be allowed.
They should be allowed to do whatever they please.
Yeah.
However, they shouldn't force it on us. Our citizens, like in Germany right now, if you don't wear a headscarf as a female, you will get sexually assaulted. You will get raped.
I mean, that's a horrible thing and very rape culture.
Also happening. But the rape culture isn't coming from the regular German citizen. It's coming from the immigrants.
Interesting. I mean, we don't want people being raped.
No, we don't. Like I said, this is one of the problems with Sharia law and common law or Western law. It's not compatible. And right now, Germany being flooded, Norway, Sweden, Britain, we're all being flooded with immigrants. And they're all trying to change common law to Sharia law. You do realize that public prayer, when they do that thing on Friday at 5 o'clock, public prayer outside. Okay?
Okay.
And let's say a British park or a, you see, I don't know if you've been track of this stuff. In Europe, when the Muslims are praying outside, especially on a Friday at 5 o'clock,
yeah,
they're all bent down doing the prayer.
Sure.
Out in public.
Okay.
It shows their dominance. It says, we have conquered this land.
I mean, that one to me is not like,
That's exactly what it means.
What about when we send women walking around outside without headscarves? Like, it's not a statement.
That's an invitation to rape and assault.
Well,
that's what it is. Look it up. It's what's happening. If you go to Saudi Arabia as a Western woman and not cover up, that's exactly what will happen to you. No exceptions.
True?
Yes. It is very true. I've seen video of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm really not okay with rape.
Right. And it's funny how the feminist parties in Canada seem to think that Canadians, white Canadians, have a rape culture. We don't.
Well, we do a bit. Like,
not to the extent of the Muslim country.
But yeah, well, yes.
We don't have anywhere near as bad. I mean, they're trying to say there's rape culture in all the college campuses and all the university campuses. It's nowhere near what they try to advertise it to be. It's just like the current liberal, the current NDP opposition party. They're making this whole putting stickers on a gas pump is terrible because he's going to fine them $10,000 a day if they don't put them on. Like, what do you think Wynn did when she put the stickers on the gas pumps?
Wait. So what stickers are they putting on gas? What?
They're advertising what the cost of the new carbon tax will be on the gas pumps.
Right.
By Ford. Ford wants to put them on the gas pumps to show Canadians what the federal government is taking from you.
Okay. Now, to me, that is a very distinct move by Ford for his own agenda, where...
Yes, but the NDP is saying it's wrong and, it's never been done before and they're going to charge them a huge amount of money. And I'm thinking, well, what government policy doesn't have a penalty in place that's mandated? For example, you can't sell smokes to minors or else you get punished.
Right.
So anything that has a mandate, it has a punishment clause. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be fine, could be jail, could be public embarrassment. Doesn't matter what it is. Every mandate has a punishment clause, a penalty clause.
Mm-hmm.
Wind did the same thing when she put the gas prices, when she put the gasoline breakdowns on the pumps and stickers as well.
She put stickers on pumps.
Yeah, we did it. I was there. I was putting stickers on pumps.
Okay.
Okay, and there wasn't much of an outcry back then. Why is there an outcry this time?
So what is the outcry about?
The fact that he's forcing people to put these stickers on the pumps. And that there's a penalty.
I mean, the thing is that he is, like, there's a difference between providing information,
which is exactly what these things
are, and providing biased information. I feel that he is providing.
He is providing information that is factual.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, it's biased because guess what? It's the federal government doing this, not him.
Right. Yes. But
and the NDP, for some reason, is defending the Liberals because we no longer have a Liberal Party in Ontario. One to speak of, anyways. So, yeah, he's doing this as a political shot.
Yeah.
Everybody knows he's doing this as a political shot.
Yeah.
So did when she put the prices on the pumps back in, was it 03?
Yeah.
She made all the gas stations put the price breakdowns, tax breakdowns on the pumps.
So, but in that case, I think that's my thing with this is Rob Ford abusing his power.
How's that?
Because polar bears are also dying because of climate change, but I cannot go around. I cannot mandate that dying polar bear stickers need to be on.
You think climate change is an actual thing?
Oh, I do. Yes. I mean, Gordon, there has been a lot of evidence about
a lot of fake evidence.
What?
Talk to some astrophysicists. Talk to some geophysicists, and they'll tell you what's happening right now is perfectly normal.
So I do know that
you can't tell me in less than 150 years, we're killing the Earth. The Earth has been around for billions of years. They survived multiple volcanic actions that pollute far more than what we could ever pollute, let alone even more toxic stuff than we could ever pollute.
Well, but
by sheer volume, I mean, not by pure toxicity. Climate change is not a thing. Honest to God, it is not. What we're experiencing now, the so-called adverse weather, you do realize that since the 1970s, the government, especially the U.S. government, has been trying to modify the weather. They're trying to get things to happen. And how do you get things to happen? Well, you got to seed the clouds, and when you seed the clouds, weather happens. Unpredictable because you can't control the weather. All those huge rainfalls and floods that we've been getting happen because man's trying to change the weather, not because we're polluting the air that badly.
Okay, but the ice caps are melting.
Yes, because the Earth is warming up.
Because of what, sorry?
The Earth is warming up.
Yes, because so the Earth is warming up and the ice caps are melting. So we can agree on that point.
Yep.
Okay.
But that isn't because of us. It's because of, well, the sun.
So I do remember a theory that the Earth's wobble does change the climate, and that's why there were the Dark Ages, is because that was a cold spell, and all of Europe had.
What about our mini ice age back in the 1800s?
Yeah, exactly. But this is really, really slow changes. I think.
Mm-hmm. But 1800s was what, 200 years ago, so.
Okay.
Not that big of a change, not that slow.
Okay. So
actually, no, you're right. It's actually quite fast when it's just less than 200 years. But we had for whatever reason, we experienced a mini ice age that we shouldn't have experienced, according to geophysicists. It was very strange. They don't know why it happened because they didn't live back then.
Sure.
And there were no accurate records back then. There were records of weather, but they weren't records of why this stuff was happening.
So hang on. So this is the 1800s.
Yes.
That's okay. So like Victorian or Georgian or something, England, there were people.
Well, before the Civil War.
Before the American Civil War?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was an ice age?
Mini ice age.
Like what happened? How much ice was there? I didn't know that.
It was a cooling period.
Okay.
We had an extended winter, very deep snow.
Okay.
It was still fairly mild.
Yeah.
Like it snowed a lot. They called it the mini ice age because it stayed cooler for a long. The average temperature of the Earth was going up.
Yeah.
And then we had the mini ice age where the temperature went down.
Okay.
And now we're back going up again. So we're almost where we left off at the beginning of the mini ice age.
Okay. So fair enough. Would you like more?
Yes. Thank you.
So um, sun's radiation coming in, being absorbed by the Earth as heat, being emitted as heat waves, and then being trapped by carbon dioxide and reflected back to Earth because of the higher carbon dioxide content
Carbon
in the air.
dioxide. That's
Yeah.
not a greenhouse gas.
Yes, it is, isn't it? I believe that's.
I thought methane was a greenhouse gas.
I mean, methane is a much more intense.
I thought nitrous oxide was methane gas or oxide.
I mean, methane is like methane per volume reflects a lot more heat, but I'm pretty sure carbon dioxide does also reflect heat back to the Earth, right?
No, it's not a block. You gotta remember, we exhale that.
No. I said no, Max. No. You're mean. No. Maxwell.
But we're also talking how many years the Earth has been around.
Yeah.
And how many times it's been through its own ice ages. We've had at least, according to some geophysicists, at least 4 extinctions.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot of extinctions.
Yes. And we're nowhere near that yet. We are due for an ice age. That's a true thing.
Okay.
But what happens to every ice age? At the very beginning, we raise in temperature until it hits critical mass, and then it shoots right down, and then the world is covered in ice.
Okay. I'm gonna need to find more information about this. I personally, right now, I still believe that climate change is a human-made thing.
Oh,
but
I don't think we're helping. I agree that much, but I don't think that we are direct cause. Correlation, perhaps. Cause, no.
Okay.
Because just like this whole cap and trade thing, when people got pissed off that Wynn had put it in, and then Ford took it away. And they're saying, oh, people are going to pollute now. It's like, no, since 1973, because I don't know if you remember back then, license plates in Ontario had the slogan, "Keep it beautiful." So in 1973, the provincial government at the time, I don't know who it was, it escapes me at the moment, but put in strict pollution control laws, put in the filters, the not CO2, something else, something to do with the capture of stuff from the coal burning plants producing their power.
Right.
They put in all sorts of pollution controls, and they're still in place. We never left. Okay, they're still in place. We still can't pollute willingly. That's just it's against the law. And don't forget, we have enough citizens like yourself that go out and say, "Hey, these guys are polluting," and they go on and check.
Yeah.
And if they are polluting, they fix it. That's what they do. People are saying, "Oh, it's not enough." It's like, yeah, it's more than you realize, because they don't understand the scale of what we do have in place.
What about things like deforestation? I mean, we're killing a lot of forests that
we are.
provide oxygen.
Yes, we are. And that's very telling, because I don't know if you noticed what a 2x4 looks like now. 2x4 is not 2x4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so yeah, I understand. Yeah, and we are going through lumber, and we shouldn't. There are alternatives, and I know that. I got a friend who's promoting hemp, because apparently you can make building materials out of hemp. And you can grow hemp. You can get like 3 or 4 yields per year in a hemp field than you would in comparison to trying to grow a tree for wood and other stuff. Yeah. So there are some alternatives. None of it's wildly popular or cheap enough to run right now, I guess. I mean, I don't discount that we need to do better.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should stay the same.
Okay.
But I'm also saying buying into cap and trade, which is literally you're buying stocks or credits from California so you can pollute in Ontario. That's exactly what's happening. The biggest companies that can afford all of this stuff, okay, are buying credits from California so they can pollute in Ontario, so they don't have to change a damn thing. What Ford put in place with the whole, if you improve your output, cleaner air and whatever else, we will give you money. I think it's a far better assessment or far better incentive than paying for cap and trade, where all they have to do is pay for extra credits and they can not change a thing.
Interesting.
And not, I mean, look at Quebec. You got them. They got those guys dumping sewage water in natural streams and lakes. I mean, come on. And they're doing it because they have the carbon credit. Because they're allowed. Instead of stopping them, instead of giving them an incentive to stop it, they're being allowed to do it.
Yeah.
So this cap and trade thing, good idea. I'm glad he scrapped it, because it's nothing more than people paying to pollute. That's exactly what that is. This whole Trudeau with we're gonna make pollution free. Well, what do you think it was under the cap and trade system? It was free if you paid for it. You can pollute as much as you want as long as you paid for the credits. Because some of these guys, they work on an airspace system. So let's say if you're a company that's very efficient and you got all sorts of airspace above your company, people can buy up those reserve credits, and that company will make money, while another company can go, well, we don't have to change anything or our pollution control system because we bought credits. That's why the cap and trade thing was total fraud. Nothing but a shell game, Ponzi scheme.
Wow.
But as far as climate change, I don't believe, like I said, I don't believe we're the cause. We not helping. We're
exacerbating the problem.
yes, we're not helping.
Yeah.
But in less than 150 years, we've caused the temperature of the Earth to raise by more than a degree. No, we didn't do that. You gotta remember, we went into that mini ice age. We're coming out of that mini ice age. So yes, we're gonna rise, and we're gonna rise quickly back to what it was before the mini ice age. That's the way the Earth works. It's the way the Earth breathes. If you want to use a simple analogy, the way the Earth breathes.
Okay. This is interesting. I'm definitely gonna have to, do more research on this.
There is a video, Truth About Climate Change by Wonderland channel on YouTube.
Okay.
It has a half a dozen Canadian professors. Okay, legitimate Canadian professors that say it's not what we think it is. It's not what the UN says it is. And don't forget, this is the 4th time the UN has issued the ultimatum: if we don't do something now, Earth is going to die in 12 years. The first time they issued that ultimatum was 1970.
Now that was about ozone, though, right? And didn't we replace the ozone layer?
It was something to do with pollution. I don't know. But that was the first time they issued the ultimatum: the Earth is going to die in 12 years if we don't fix it by giving us money. So that's why a lot of people don't like it or believe that it's actually happening. It's like the boy crying wolf. They've said it far too often, and they've got no real actual scientists. They've got pseudoscience to back it up. The one diagram that shows the sun coming in through, then bouncing off the Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's hitting another part of the sky that's going to cause, and it's going to go down again. The problem with that is radiation waves don't come in on straight lines. They wiggle, and they spread. They vary. They go all over the place.
I mean, I think that's just sort of a dramatic representation.
But they're saying that's the actual causation. And that's not. There's a scientist that, the one scientist I was listening to deals with the whole radiation bed.
Yeah.
He goes, these models here, they're showing on the climate change saying it's worse because of this. He goes, they're wrong. The scale is wrong. Yeah. He goes, when was the last time you see the Earth was flat? It's not. I mean, okay, talk to a flat earther, different story. But the Earth is round. And the scale model they've got is incorrect. It should be curved. It's not curved. It's totally flat. And straight angles, again, because radiation doesn't come in at straight angles.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that's all the time we have for climate change today. I will investigate.
Yeah, that's a whole huge issue. I had one girl shut me down because when I was doing the Yellow Vest protest, she goes, "You don't believe in what do you think about climate change?" And I told her I don't believe it. And she said, "Well, that's it. You're a nut. You don't know what you're talking about." You say so?
It's interesting. I mean, I think it's interesting that people write each other off for disagreeing with them.
Yeah, they shut it right down. There's no longer conversation.
Yeah.
They won't allow for conversation. That part bothers me because for a lot of people that shows their ignorance, and I've said that often on Facebook. Be careful, your ignorance is showing. Because if you're not willing to talk about it, you got. Nah, see, I don't want to get into that because it's a whole different other thing. But you got people that are calling me names, and it's like, well, you know what? Your ignorance is showing. because you obviously don't have anything to back what you set up or prove me wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I've had many people give me a statement to try to prove me wrong, and I would go and check that.
yeah,
Because like Jordan Peterson had once said, listen to other people, because they may know stuff and you don't,
of course.
right? So once you hear something like that, then you check it out.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, it'll change your opinion. It'll be one way or the other. But that's what open debate's all about, right? You've got to listen to the other side. You just can't shut them down.
Yeah.
Call them crazy or call them sick or conspiracy theorist or white supremacist and racist, whatever else.
I think that's sort of the point of our show, is that I may not agree with things that you say, but we should still be able to have an enjoyable discussion about things.
And
I
be
think-
peaceful about it and not start ranting and raving and
Yeah. Okay. Gordon, I've got one last question for you, just to sort of finish up this episode, and that is, you know, Canada as a political country, entity, system, has some good things, has some bad things. What do you feel would make Canada politically a better place?
okay, you know, I said I was all right.
Yeah? Yeah.
Okay. 3 things must happen, in my opinion.
Okay.
1, the fear of God must be put into the politicians. And
Okay,
by
we need
that,
to make
I
them
mean they
accountable.
have to understand they are accountable to us, not to the corporation.
I agree with that, by the way, and I'm a leftist. Continue.
Secondly, a lot of those politicians should be replaced. Shouldn't be business people, shouldn't be lawyers. Be people like you and I. We have an emotional, invested interest in looking out for the public. I don't know if you noticed, but some of the most popular or the most positively talked about prime ministers
Mm-hmm.
had a military background.
Really? Like which ones?
Stephen Baker,
Okay.
the last one that wrote the 1960 Canadian Bill of Rights,
Yeah.
where he stated free speech is a right. And then Trudeau came along and changed free speech into freedom of expression. We no longer have free speech. We have freedom of expression, which means our speech is limited by law. And it's already been proven. Bill C-16, M-103, UN Migration Compact. Our speech is controlled by law. Where the United States is protected, it's an inalienable right. You're allowed to speak you're allowed to speak your piece. In Canada, we don't have that right.
Interesting. I mean, I will say that on a very basic level, I do agree that, you know, not all politicians should be business people. Some of them should be humans.
They
who
need to
care
be
about
smart
humans.
enough. They need to be smart enough to do the job. But right, they have to be emotionally invested in doing the job.
Yeah, they should care about the people that they are theoretically representing and making decisions.
Right, and not have. And another thing too, they gotta stop with lobbyists visiting Parliament. Should do what I think it was Norway. They kicked all the lobbyists out of Parliament. No lobbyist allowed to Parliament. No lobbyist allowed at all to talk to politicians, unless it has to do with actual, you know, building permits or whatever else. Otherwise, there is no lobbying allowed. Period.
Wow.
Banned.
That is a bold move by Norway.
Well, and it saved them a lot of money too, and a lot of hassle, because they're no longer being controlled by that companies saying this is what you need to do. And I need to get going.
I never thought I'd find an alt-right person say we need to be more like Norway.
Well, Norway's got a good free market and socialist system. Right now, they're keeping it in balance, but it's harder now because they got more and more immigrants. So, like Margaret Thatcher had said, the problem with socialism is you will always run out of other people's money. So, all these immigrants coming in and the money's getting drained and drained. It's going to get to the point where we get to austerity. That's what happened to Greece. What happened to Portugal. That's what happened to Ireland. They bottomed out.
Yeah.
And they had to go under austerity measures, high taxes, high unemployment, and everything else. Just made life just basically miserable. Which is why I don't believe socialism will work. We still need the free market system.
Yeah.
But it's got
People's
people's got to
balance.
change. People have got to change. Companies have got to stop. This is all ours.
Yeah.
Right? They got to go, okay, well,
I
you know,
agree
we
with
don't
that.
need all of the greed.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't need to be like, we still need to be able to buy new cell phones. We still need to have the newer cell phones, and the creativity must be there. You can't stifle them, but at the same time, the problem with some of these corporations is that they're 100%. We got to make more money this month. We got to make more money this month. We got to make more money this hour. Gas stations are like that. We got to make more money this hour.
Yeah.
Like that whole, I had an argument with somebody on Facebook about about when when Ford removed the cap and trade, gas prices were supposed to drop. They did drop 6 cents. 6 hours later, gas went up 8 cents.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, what happened was, gas company had to stop collecting what costed them for cap and trade. They had to stop collecting it.
Yeah.
So they did that. They turned around and upped the price so they can recover what they had to spend on cap and trade. A lot of people are not seeing that. They're saying Ford didn't do what he promised. He did exactly what he promised. Gas companies not letting you see that. They still want you to raise. They still want you to rage against Ford. And I should know because I worked at a gas company long enough.
Wow. Gordon, this has been fascinating. I know that you have to
Not
get
enough
going.
time. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you. And yeah, thank you for being so candid and honest and just telling us what you feel about that.